Today's podcast is brought to you by Visa. With the capacity to process over 65,000 transaction messages every second, Visa has been bringing innovations to the way we pay for over 60 years. Imagine a world where, instead of just tapping to pay with Visa, you had to wait for everyone in front of you to cut a check. Everywhere you went. Imagine how much fun it'd be trying to track down your cousin in Milwaukee for league dues. That's why Visa's vision is to be the best way to pay and be paid everywhere, so you won't have to. Whatever your goals are, Visa makes paying fast and easy. The only thing left to figure out is, where would you like to be? Visa, everywhere you want to be.
Hi everyone, good morning and welcome to First Things First. It is Monday. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That is the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. This right here is Nick Wright. He's got a lot of notes. That means he's got a lot of things to say.
Good to see you this morning,
today.
Good to see you, Jenna. Glad to have you back.
Feel good. Feel
Jenna
healthy.
Wolfe got over the old bubonic. Is back now.
It was 2 days, which is a far cry from the 7 days I took the year prior for the flu. Big show today.
Flu.
Chiefs All-Pro. Did he give air quotes? I hate when he gives air quotes. Chiefs All-Pro tight end Travis Kelce is going to join us. We're going to ask him about his buddy, Patrick Mahomes, how he's feeling. The Green Bay Packers, they're the team seemingly poised to represent the NFC after what we saw yesterday. And there was a lot on the line in the NFC East last night. That's where we begin this morning with Sunday Night Football. You got Carson Wentz and the Eagles in Dallas to face Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. And this was one way to break a three-game skid. Feed Zeke. That made it 14-0 in the first. Finished with 147 yards from scrimmage. Second quarter now, Dak connects with Blake Jarwin to put the boys up 21-7. Eagles trying to stay in it. That doesn't help. Wentz intercepted in the fourth, one of his 3 turnovers on the day. It's a bad day for the Eagles. Cowboys, they go on to win 37-10, and with that, they now take sole possession of first place in the NFC East. Here's Dak Prescott after the win.
Feels great. Yeah, it was a great team win. The best complimentary football that we've played all year long. Offense, defense making plays, getting us on the plus side of the field, us being able to capitalize on them, being able to do that early, score touchdowns early. Something that we've been trying to get to all year long, and we were able to do that tonight.
All right, we'll talk about the Eagles in just a second, but as far as the Cowboys are concerned, did they prove last night they're the best team in the NFC East?
Well, head-to-head, if you weren't, coming into this game thinking that the Eagles were a lot better than the Cowboys, you'd have to leave thinking that the Cowboys right now, because regardless of what we thought before the season, regardless of what with their injuries, teams are adapting, and right now the teams that we see, and that's the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles, the team that I saw was a lot better than the Eagles. I don't know who the Philadelphia Eagles are. And the Dallas Cowboys, they did get good news late in the week. You could start to see Amari Cooper. They made him work out on Friday, made him go at full speed. Tyron Smith was back in the lineup. So if we look at the last year of football, when Amari Cooper is healthy and available for Dak, when Tyron Smith is healthy and available for the Cowboys, they're a good offensive football team. And you could see last night, they put everything together. Capitalized on the turnovers. It was a hard-hitting game in this fierce rivalry. Took advantage of those turnovers, creating big plays. Ezekiel Elliott was special, the way he always is, in the other 4 meetings against the Philadelphia Eagles. So for me, this was a dominant performance by the Cowboys, and it was nice to see the Cowboys back at full strength, because over the last 3 weeks, we didn't know what type of Cowboys team we were going to see.
It was a spectacular performance by Dallas, and finally, through 7 weeks of the season and a few months of off season where we talk about the Cowboys almost every day, I think I have finally figured the Cowboys out. I think I finally understand this team, and it is very simple. When they are at full strength, they can play with anyone, and they can look great as soon as you remove not multiple, just one of their potential key ingredients, whether that's Amari or Tyron Smith or Zeke, as we saw in the suspension. If you remove any one of those things from the homeostasis they want to be at, they're a disaster. They can lose to the Jets. They can be down 31-3 to Green Bay. But when we found out Saturday afternoon that it looks like, wait, not one, but both tackles are going to play. Not just Amari, but Amari and Randall Cobb are going to play. That changed, for me, some of the analysis of the game. We talked on Friday about how the Cowboys had injuries that were clustered at critical spots. Their tackles, their wide receivers, their corners. The only player who ended up missing of those 6 we were concerned about was the one corner. And Dallas, when they have their full complement of players, they can go out there and do this to you. Now, it's an indictment on Philly, and I know you said we're going to get to it. Philly's a team that and I think many people just flatly got wrong about how talented are they really. But for the Cowboys, Dak played really well. Zeke, you mentioned it. He's now averaging 163 yards from scrimmage in his 5 career games against the Eagles. The Cowboys are 5-0 in those games, and they got off to the start that Philly said they wanted to get off to. Philly said, we're going to take the ball. We're going to get off to a good start. Dallas, who had struggled mightily in the first half of games dating back to week 3, was spectacular in the first half, tried to put the game away in the first half, up 27-7 at the end of the half with the Brett Maher 63-yard field goal, and it was off and running. The Cowboys were spectacular and, to me, did assert themselves as the best team in the division because who is Philadelphia?
Right, and I think we took Dallas's first 3 wins of the season with a grain of salt because of the opposition.
Yes.
Yesterday was against a good team. They were full strength, but it was a balanced attack that you saw from the Cowboys, and as you said, it was probably the best all-around game we've seen from them. On the other side of it, you have to wonder, we talk about this identity that the Eagles seem to not have. Boy, they showed none of that yesterday. How concerned are you with what the Eagles put out there?
Well, I'm concerned. I'm concerned about their offensive line that for, say, this 3-year window they've been in. We've always talked about how great they are. Lane Johnson, we always talk about, man, he can play left tackle. He's so good. But not only do they have Peters, their left tackle, out, Johnson's not playing well at the right tackle. He got dominated in last night's game. So I'm surprised at Philadelphia because they are very, very talented. And they're only missing a couple pieces. Deshaun Jackson, we know that he's out. But would he be the answer if he was back? No, I don't think so, because their defense is not a good defense. Their linebacking core, because they have so many defensive tackles hurt, you can take advantage of their linebacking core and run the ball against them. So we knew this defense had 2 question marks, linebacking core and the secondary. Both of those are still in question. So to me, how do they get it back together, having the deepest roster that we've seen? This year is a great example. Talent is not enough in the league. If you look at the San Diego Chargers, the LA Chargers, and if you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, there's no one who's rating the rosters that would not have these 2 rosters in the top 5. But we have seen both of these organizations struggle this year. So talent this year, obviously it's not enough. Both of them do have a number of injuries, but so do a number of other teams that are managing a lot better.
I would add another team to that list, maybe not in the top 5 as talent, but certainly top 5 offensive talent, the Atlanta Falcons, which right now look like one of the worst teams in football. Like, you're totally correct. The talent's not enough. And Philadelphia might be on paper a good team, but through this season, they have given no evidence of it. I think we might look back and say, wow, the outlier event of the NFL season was Philadelphia going to Green Bay and winning. That game maybe tricked us a bit on Philly, and maybe confirmation bias as far as the team that they said they were going to be, that they could be that team. But this team, Doug Peterson's trying to pull out all his tricks. None of them are working. I'll guarantee a victory. All for the first time since week 13 of 2016. If we win the toss, we're taking the ball. How'd that work out for you? And the team, and I'm hesitant to ever level this criticism, the team's effort level seems to be far lower than I'm used to. Late in this football game, they're down 20 points with 11 minutes left, and Wentz throws what I thought was maybe his best ball of the night, the deep pass to Aguilar across the field. And Aguilar, I mean, you can see it right here. Aguilar doesn't even try for it. I mean, and on the... I don't know if you're going to catch that, but to alligator arm it like that. At least extend
your arm.
Listen, laying out on the turf, I understand can be painful, but this is a good pass with your man beat, and he keeps his arms in.
Sometimes on TV, those balls are a little more deceptive. And to me, it looked like his gait was a little off, like he didn't want to pop his hamstring. So I could understand the rest of the team, but one play does not make a game.
Of course. No. And that to me was the only reason I even wanted to show it was, to me, it was indicative of what I saw from them throughout the night. On the next drive, you had a player with an opportunity, I thought, to get out of bounds and get a first down and just goes down. Philly, to me, right now, they are a team that is struggling with confidence, and they are struggling to figure out who they are. And you can see it where once the beginning of that game went wrong, the 2 early turnovers, there was a bit of a waving of the white flag. They had one drive all game, and it was extended by 30 yards of personal foul penalties. They were unable to move the ball. They were unable to stop Dallas in what was their biggest game of the season.
Wasn't great, but for Dallas, who did put it all together, they did look good. So time for Putting a Grade on it, sponsored by CarMax. Ezekiel Elliott, he had a big game last night. The game we've been waiting for, 111 yards and a touchdown on the ground to go along with 6 catches for 36 yards through the air. Nick, put a grade on Zeke's night.
See, you ever have a class through high school and college, what is a certain subject that you just always knew you were going to get an A in, just no matter what?
I was always good at math.
Math? So, for math to Chris Carter is the Eagles for Ezekiel Elliott. No matter what, no matter the year, no matter the circumstance, I'm going to kill him. You got to give him an A, he's had in every single game he's ever played against them.
Worst grade I ever got in math was a B.
Well, he's never even had that against the Eagles.
Z is exceptional. I think because he missed training camp, this is the best game, because look how many times he made people miss. Look how more explosive he looked on the edge. He even took people to the sideline, then cut back into traffic. I think an A+. This is the best game I've seen him. Exciting for the Dallas Cowboys to have him at full strength, because he is a special, special runner.
Zeke was doing what we're used to seeing his rookie and second year, falling forward every time. You hit him, he gets the extra 2 yards falling forward.
He was also, if you listen to any of his press conference, the happiest he's been after a game so far this season.
Great win. Hey guys, Nick right here to talk about LightStream credit card bills. Every month you get them with multiple payments and multiple due dates. Wouldn't it be easier to just have one payment at a lower rate? Well, you can with a credit card consolidation loan from my friends at LightStream. Get a rate as low as 5.95% APR with autopay, lower than the average credit card interest rate of over 19% APR. Plus, the rate is fixed, so it will never go up over the life of the loan. You can get a loan from $5,000 to $100,000 with no fees. And you can even get your money as soon as the day you apply. Just for First Things First listeners, apply now to get a special interest rate discount. The only way to get this discount is to go to lightstream.com/FTF. That's lightstream.com/FTF. Of course, subject to credit approval, rate includes 0.50% auto pay discount. Terms and conditions apply, and offers are subject to change without notice. Visit lightstream.com/FTF for more information.
All right, moving on. Great game out in Seattle. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens taking on Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. We picked this one up in the second quarter. Marcus Peters making an immediate impact with his new team, taking the pick all the way. And the Ravens go up 13-10, move to the third tie game. Lamar on 4th and 2 calls his own number for the touchdown, finished with 116 rushing yards, 143 passing yards. Fourth quarter now, Russell Wilson finds DK Metcalf, but the rookie fumbles. Marlon Humphrey comes up with the scoop and the score, and that does it. Baltimore goes on to win 30-16. Both teams now 5-2. Flex it out for us. Here's Marcus Peters on his first impressions of his new teammate.
Man, Lamar got some speed, man. Whew. You know, that start and stop stuff that he does is unbelievable, man. And like I say, it's only going to get better. We have yet to see the best of Lamar Jackson, you know. I think you can't do – I don't know how to stop him. You know, he can throw the ball, he can run, you know, he can do all those things. And just excited to be his teammate now.
And we always sort of knew that Lamar could do all these things, but week after week, we're starting to see him actually implement all the skills he has for a relatively young player. Nick, how impressive was this game for Lamar and this Baltimore team?
A spectacular win for Baltimore. We talked Friday that the Ravens' defense had been more reputation than production thus far this season, that they weren't playing up to traditional Baltimore Ravens defense standards. Well, they did on Sunday. 2 defensive scores. That's the difference in this football game. Lamar, as great as he was on the ground, struggled throwing the football, only 9 completions, but it didn't matter because the defense played great.
Yeah, his wide receivers dropped at least 5 or 6 of them.
Wide receivers and tight ends. The tight end had the Reynolds. Mark Andrews, correct, my apologies, had a brutal game. To the point where you saw the backup tight end go up to Harbaugh and try to check himself into the game. Harbaugh said, get out of here, man. But I mean, Lamar did not have any favors done for him by his receivers. It didn't matter because the Ravens defense forced Russell Wilson into his first bad game since last December. I mean, they went to Seattle and played the style of football Seattle once upon a time loved to play, defensive-minded, turn you over, run the football, and they got that is a great win against a very confident Seattle team. And on Peters quickly, we said it last week. Which Marcus Peters are you getting? The one in Kansas City that was an all-pro or the one in Los Angeles that never really found his footing? Through one game, it's the Kansas City version, and that player can be a top 5 corner in this league.
I guarantee you Marcus Peters, since he left college, and he's been in 3 locker rooms, the organizational support and what they do for the players in Baltimore is second to none. From the time you walk in, how you want to do your interviews, how you're going to dress, what kind of food you like to eat, what kind of family you have. I mean, they make it tailor-made for you. I've never seen an organization that is as thorough as they are. So I know he's a West Coast guy. After going to school at Washington, drafted by Kansas City. And as nice as the Rams is, as Sean McVay, I guarantee you he's going to be a lot happier in Baltimore with the type of defense. And they did get back to Baltimore's old style. Even though they didn't accumulate a lot of sacks. They only got Russell on the ground. But they harassed him, and they came up with the big plays, tricked him, forced him in. Peters faked like he was playing in zone. Russell tried to throw it to the sideline. He breaks up on it. The thing that he does special, when he catches it, you better get him on the ground too. And also, the confidence that Harbaugh has in Lamar. 4th down. He gets it to 4th and 2. He immediately calls timeout because he was going to kick the field goal. Harbaugh looks at Lamar and said, we're going to go for it. Greg Roman, the offensive coordinator, calls a brilliant play in the game. At that point, they go to get the score. I believe that was the difference. Beating Seattle in a Seattle-type way, I believe this will pay dividends for Baltimore. Young team going all the way cross coast, getting Marcus Peters in a trade this week. Not having Hollywood Brown.
Right.
So when they can't throw the ball and with Hollywood and they can still win, Lamar was super, super special in this game. You had to watch it to know the impact because he took over this game like a college game. He played with the type of enthusiasm that we typically see from college players. So congratulations to him and the Ravens for going to Seattle.
And to follow up real quickly on a couple of your points. One is on that 4th down. After the game, Harbaugh, he might have been fudging a little bit. He said he left it up to Lamar, and that Lamar said, I want to go for it, and he let him go for it. And the combination of Lamar's running ability with, and credit John Harbaugh, because I don't give coaches a lot of credit in this regard, but he's one of the best, understanding when you should be aggressive, when you should go for 4th downs, that is a deadly combination. Because 4th and short with a player who can run or pass is a nightmare for defenses, and it gives them so many more options on 3rd and short because they know that they can go for it on 4th down. But I want people to understand what Lamar's doing. Right now, Lamar is neck and neck with Ezekiel Elliott for rushing yards and neck with Tom Brady in passing yards. Like that, when you've got a player doing those two things, it presents so many problems for the defense, even in a night or a day when his passing numbers are below his standard.
So are we done worrying about whether Lamar should be out there running, putting himself out there like that? Are we going to just watch this play out and enjoy what we're seeing?
Well, this is the thing, Jenna. The reason why these shows are on TV is because of the quarterbacks. And what makes these shows popular is, man, we're going to be reporting on quarterbacks getting hurt. He has a different type of toughness to him. Now, there are running quarterbacks that we've seen, Randall Cunningham and Michael Vick. They're both running quarterbacks, but the temperament of Randall Cunningham compared to Michael Vick and the toughness was totally different. Lamar is closer to Michael Vick. So there are some guys that can handle some of this. So you didn't see guys getting a big shot on him. So for me, will his body hold up? And because he's developed as a passer, it opens up so many things for him.
See, he also seems to have a really uncanny ability to get sideways, to like turn his shoulders so you can't square up on him. And he's so fast, and plus the agility. I can't remember 3 times Lamar's just been absolutely pasted. And so he's done a good job.
He doesn't run reckless.
Right.
On to the Vikings and the Lions. And if you had doubts about Kirk Cousins coming in, you did not have him going out. Cousins threw for 337 yards and for the second straight game threw 4 touchdowns. Stephon Diggs, who had 167 yards last week, had 142 in this one. And Dalvin Cook finished with 142 yards himself and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Vikings win a big one, 42-30. The only bad news, Adam Thielen had to leave the game with a hamstring injury after scoring a touchdown. Let's talk some Kirk Cousins. See, has he proven he can carry this team?
No. Kirk Cousins is one of those kind of guys that regardless of what type of season he has, regardless of what type of game, you're always looking for either the next season or the next game that he's going to come back down to earth. So, no, in Detroit on a Sunday, no, because we have seen too many times where Kirk Cousins in prime time, even though the last 3 weeks of the season, you cannot say there's a quarterback that's played better than he has. I mean, he has played phenomenal 3 weeks in a row. Can he keep that up for the season? No. I mean, he's challenged as a quarterback. He's got his limitations as a quarterback. And also because he's been so inconsistent throughout his career, he will always be one of those kind of guys. He's like Nick Foles. Nick Foles, until he won the Super Bowl, we say, oh, man, can he start for you? Yeah, but can he carry you as a quarterback? No. Kirk Cousins is the same way. He's been phenomenal the last 3 weeks. We should give him credit for that. And their schedule has eased up a little bit, so the Vikings can get on a little run. He has improved, though, because he's taking care of the ball, not making bad decisions with the football, and spreading the ball around.
To your point about these last 3 weeks, 10 touchdowns, 1 pick, 325 yards passing a game, and a 139 quarterback rating. He has been sensational. And to the point about the schedule, they get Washington on Thursday. They then get so they get a mini bye week before they face Kansas City, with assuming no Patrick Mahomes. And then a couple weeks later, they have Denver. So they absolutely, like 7-3, 8-3 is a very realistic possibility for these Minnesota Vikings, which is critical given what the Packers are doing, given what other teams in the NFC are doing, the Saints and the Niners. Like, that top of the NFC is stacked. But for them to go to Detroit, a Detroit team that we talked about at 2-1 going into this game, but could have been 5-0, certainly could have been 4-1, and the defense had been really good. If you would have told me the Vikings are going to go to Detroit and win, I'd have believed you, but I would have thought they would have won 21-17, that they would have been defensive, maybe 20-16, something like that. For them to go there, have Matt Stafford play well. He threw for, 4 touchdowns, a 111 rating, over 350 yards, and Kirk Cousins just outdueled him to go along with Dalvin Cook, who shouldn't be forgotten in this. He went for another game where he went for a $140 on the ground. The Vikings offensive line's playing better, the quarterback's playing better, and they can start to gain some confidence, especially with Washington on this short week.
Yeah, it's easier for Cousins if Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook should be the focal point of their offense. You make a great point. What's held them back the last couple of years is a lack of an elite offensive line. That offensive line really did improve, and you can start to see it through Dalvin Cook, which has also helped out Kirk Cousins.
Back here, first things first, we're joined by former Pro Bowl wide receiver Greg Jennings. Great to see you, Greg.
What up, man?
Good to have you back.
Good to be back.
Best thing about football, we get you guys coming in here.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about your former team, Greg.
That's pretty good. You was pretty good. Greg, she tried.
Taking on the Raiders.
She can't help herself.
No, she can't. This was the absolute best of Aaron Rodgers, perhaps the best of Matt LaFleur. Packers look great. They look like a complete team. Finally, Rodgers went 25 for 31, 429 passing yards, 5 touchdowns to 5 different receivers. Good for a perfect 158.3 passer rating. Oh, and he ran one in for good measures as well. Green Bay improves to 6-1 with the 42-24 blowout win. Greg Jennings, how scary are the Packers with the LaFleur and Rodgers just kind of clicking like they have been?
They're extremely scary. Arguably the best team in the NFC. Take record out of it, what they can provide on the football field offensively and defensively. But sticking to the offensive side of the ball, you're looking at a team that is without their number one guy in Devontae Adams. He's been sidelined, and it hasn't stopped them or hindered them one bit. And it's all due to Aaron Rodgers. And I got to give Matt LaFleur a lot of credit because he's allowed what I've seen an Aaron Rodgers who has always been predicated on hero ball and it being on his shoulders to make plays. And we saw that yesterday, him making plays and it being about him throwing the ball. But he started to learn how to become patient, literally throw the ball down to his checkdowns and just methodically move the ball, which is something that is scary because it was always something that defenses posed a threat on Aaron Rodgers. Just force him to throw things underneath, and he is getting it done.
But Greg, wasn't he that way when you guys were at your best before he went into hero ball? Because when he first started, to me, he played the game the way you wanted. He could make the spectacular throws, but he would take any throw on the field. It seemed like over the last 4 years, he tried to put everything on his shoulders because he didn't have support. So for me, he's getting back to his fundamentals. I'm going to read it out. I know I can be a hero, but the more he throws on timing, the more efficient especially with these unknown receivers.
So one of the things, to your point, that he had early in his career was a lot of guys, myself, James Jones, Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, Donald Driver, who were able to make plays with the ball in their hands right away. So it supplemented for a lack of a run game. And so now with Aaron Jones, you have a run game, you have that support. He doesn't have to always look for the quick hit receivers. He has a guy who can come out of the backfield, catch the ball, turn around, hand the ball off to him, and then guys who can just get open and run routes. And Matt LaFleur is doing a great job of running that offense.
Aaron Rodgers played from the quarterback position a near perfect game yesterday. He did have the perfect quarterback rating, and the drives were, usually when you score as many points as the Packers did, you're set up with a few short fields. It's not what happened. Packers touchdown drives, 75, 82, 80, 78, 85, and 80. They drove the length of the field every single time. And to your guys' point about him being patient, they all were at least 5 plays, 6 plays, 11 plays, 7 plays, 8 plays until the very last one, the kill shot with Marquez Valdez-Scantling when he hit him for 74 yards on the third play of the drive. But the most impressive thing is something that you mentioned, I think, before the segment even started, which is you're doing this without Davante Adams. Yesterday, he completed passes to 8 people, 4 wide receivers, a tight end, 2 running backs, and a fullback. He threw one of those touchdown passes to Aaron Jones. I mean, Aaron Jones adjusts in the end zone. He finds him there.
Yeah, same play they missed last week. They ran the same play again. He was able to connect with him this week.
And so when Rodgers is developing some trust with Geronimo Allison, he already, I think, had trust with Marquez Valdez-Scantling. And Jimmy Graham popped for one of his first really good games as a Packer, which is something we've been waiting a couple of years for. When Davante gets back, that they have already given themselves this, I don't want to say margin of error because the Vikings are only a game behind them, but they are off to such a good start. I believe the defense is going to continue to be excellent. This looks like a Super Bowl team to me because it looks like right now they know exactly who they are and there aren't a lot of weaknesses aside from the overall running game on the roster.
CC, a week and a half ago, we brought up the conversation topic of MVP, and there were 2 names. It was Russell Wilson, it was Patrick Mahomes. 10 days later, everything's really turned and changed. Is Aaron Rodgers now in that conversation for MVP?
Anytime you have the quarterback of a team that potentially is going to be the team that wins the most games in the league, you have to consider him. And then you take into consideration who is that quarterback, and that being Aaron Rodgers. But you got to have some games like that to be able to get back into the conversation. He had to make an adjustment with Matt LaFleur, the new offense being less dependent upon him. I think the injuries to Davante Adams, and Davante Adams is not out of the woods yet. That turf toe, it can be a problem. They're not an elite team without him, regardless of what you saw last night on the field. And I do believe that the injury to Davante Adams is going to be a blessing in disguise because I don't think Aaron Rodgers, if he didn't have an extended time with this young group of receivers, he would have developed that chemistry because Aaron Rodgers is not that kind of guy. He'll give you chances in practice, but he has had enough things happen in the game with these young receivers to be like, I'm not going to throw to them. Last week, off the guy's face mask, guys falling down, not being dependable where they're going to be. So this time with Adams being out, I believe it helps galvanize that offense because now I got film of guys being successful, winning one-on-one matchups, and you can see with a running game and a defense, I can dictate to the defense, you better put 7 people in the box. And what do? One-on-one route outside, individual, he runs it, takes it to the house. So to me, the injury could be the biggest blessing in disguise for Aaron Rodgers, developing confidence in these younger players.
Yeah, you're 100% right. It's not only developing confidence in Aaron Rodgers, it's developing the confidence of these young receivers.
Sure.
When you look at them and getting the opportunity and the experience with a guy like Aaron Rodgers, depending on them to make plays, and then you step up and make plays. I remember my first early years with Brett Favre, you just wanted an opportunity to make a play. Mm-hmm. You wanted an opportunity to show your quarterback that I got you. If you need me, I'm here. And that's what these young guys are doing, and it's special. And let's give credit to the offensive line because they are protecting Aaron Rodgers and keeping his jersey clean.
And you know Aaron better than anyone on this set. I'm curious what you think about how, because we know he hears just about everything, how the conversation landed with him that over the last month, it's been like, who's the most talented quarterback in football? Well, that's Patrick Mahomes. Who's the greatest of all time? Well, we know that's Tom Brady. Who's the best quarterback in the NFC? Who's the MVP right now? Well, that's Russell Wilson. All of a sudden, he didn't have a place to plant his flag on as far as reminding everyone, I'm Aaron bleeping Rodgers. And I felt like yesterday's game was an opportunity for him to do that, and he took it because he's not a guy without an ego. I think that's fair to say. Mm-hmm. And he still has as much arm talent as any quarterback we've ever seen in the history of football.
Yeah, he definitely has as much arm talent. And when I watch him in all these other quarterbacks, he has definitely not taken a step back. I think we sometimes become enamored with what's next and what's new with Patrick Mahomes and the Lamar Jacksons and all these new faces that are doing some great things. But Aaron Rodgers, for the first time in his career, he's not been asked to do everything.
Yeah.
And that's what's been most impressive. So he doesn't even, he should have an ear to it and listen and watch. That's what he's going to always do. But step back, continue to do what you do. Trust the system because what Matt LaFleur is doing has been special. And I watched him after the game, and he gave the game ball to Aaron Rodgers. And you just see the dynamic. Everyone is enjoying themselves. He's having a good time. Matt LaFleur is having a good time. When you're having fun, the game is that much easier.
It's also nice to see Aaron Rodgers fully healthy and what he's capable of doing when he has no nagging injuries, which we haven't seen a lot of in the last couple seasons. Greg Jennings, did the Cowboys prove they are indeed the best team in the NFC East after that win last night?
When their defense plays like this, they are definitely the best team in the NFC East. They obviously can run the ball. They can throw the ball. Dak Prescott looked phenomenal yesterday, but their defense up front specifically, them getting the rush and getting the pressure on Carson Wentz, disrupting what they wanted to do offensively and in the run game, there is not a team that can really contend with the Dallas Cowboys at home like this when they play like this. I enjoyed watching them last night. I thought Ezekiel Elliott did a phenomenal job of being a part of the offense, or I should say Kellen Moore did a phenomenal job of making Ezekiel Elliott a part of the offense, both in the running game as well as the passing game. And in prior games, he's been getting his rushes, but as a part of the passing offense, it has been non-existent. And I think that's where they start to thrive when Ezekiel is a part of the passing game.
Yeah, it's exciting to see their defense play at a high level. We talked about last year when they had time of possession, when they won time possession, even 29 minutes or above, they were 8-0 last season. So we thought this defense would be good. We didn't know if they could be elite or not. Dak Prescott's ability to be able to spread the ball, him and Kellen Moore, to me, went through a 3-game law. I was very impressed with Kellen Moore as far as I didn't know if they were going to have their left tackle. I didn't know if they were going to have their right tackle. I said they have to run the ball, but yeah, every announcer says that, but I said they have to be creative in doing that. They have to get their wide receivers involved. Earlier in the game, who'd they give it to? Tavon Austin. So
touchdown.
To me, I believe Dallas's offensive line is still one of the better offensive lines that we have, but they are not a power puncher anymore. They're more of a counter puncher. So for me, how do they generate this running game without trying to overpower everyone? Because I don't believe this is the team they were a couple years ago. You can see Kellen Moore starting to adapt, move the pocket. Dak's going to run a little bit. So when you have that combination, a healthy Amari Cooper, Tyron Smith left tackle healthy, some creativity in the running game, and their defense, if their defense is going to be a top 10 defense, yes, they're going to be an elite team, and they're definitely going to be the best team in the East, Nick.
See, 3 rushing touchdowns by 3 different people. Zeke, Dak, Tavon Austin. You got Dak more involved in the running game as well, not just on the rushing touchdown. I think it was 5 carries for 30 yards. This is offensively, because you guys folks on the defensive side of the ball, the exact way the Cowboys, when they are healthy, the best way for them to play. Zeke is the focus, shots to Amari, Dak on some RPOs or some quarterback options, and then you constantly keep the defense off balance. If they overload the box to Zeke, Amari showed you, man, even coming off injury, he hit an extra gear when it looked like he was at top speed a couple times to get a little bit of separation, like a gear that I knew he had it, but I thought he was already in it. And then we saw him get to an extra gear. And the other thing for Dallas that I think makes Cowboys fans, and you referenced Skip, I know makes our friend Skip happiest, is you're seeing the maturation of Dak. Collinsworth pointed it out after the fact, but you could hear it in real time on the broadcast. When it was 14-7 and the Cowboys were around the 15-yard line, you heard Dak screaming, kill, 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 because he saw the Eagles were in zero coverage, and they were bringing the house on the blitz. And he just said, man, I know I'm going to be able to get Randall Cobb to the inside. And now it wasn't a touchdown, got him down to the 1-yard line. I think Zeke finished it off for the touchdown on that drive, or it might have been the pass. I'm not to Jarwin. I'm not certain. But regardless, that is, and then that is Dak in year 4, understanding more. The Cowboys, over the last couple years now, have shown us when they got all their horses, they're a really good football team. Their issue has been when in a league full of injuries, when even just one of those horses is removed, they become a team that can lose to the Jets. But once you found out both tackles were playing, both wide receivers were playing, you had to like Dallas's chances.
One thing you have to understand with a team like Dallas, they're just like the Rams. When you lose your frontline players, because they have so many guys making more than $5 million, they're not going to have the depth of everyone else. So when they do have some injuries, not like the Patriots, who they don't have a bunch of guys making more than $5 million, it's easier to replace those players. But great point by you, when their frontline players are there, they are an elite team.
When this Cowboys team is healthy, you know exactly who they are. But what we've seen in the last couple of weeks from the Eagles is that we don't know who they are. I picked them to win the Super Bowl. I thought this was a team with a ton of depth, with a great quarterback who was finally going to be healthy. I had a ton of promise for them.
I was part of the research too, Greg, and trying to determine who she was going to pick.
Listen, Jenna, a lot of people have been going to the Super Bowl.
What happened to the Eagles yesterday? What's been happening the last couple of weeks?
You know, I think they're trying to figure it out. I definitely can't put a finger on it. I know, obviously, with Deshaun Jackson being out, it hurts them offensively, because what I've identified with Carson Wentz is he wants to get the ball down the field. And with him not being able to get the ball down the field, they really don't have, outside of Aguilar, and he's inconsistent with his hands, a guy that can really run every single route on the route tree and create separation to continue to move the sticks. They just don't have that guy. Alshon Jeffries, good receiver. He's not a route running. Exactly. And so that kind of hinders you offensively with what you're trying to do with a quarterback that then, what we saw last night, he does this. Aaron Rodgers puts all the pressure on himself and starts to force things that aren't there.
Here's the problem for Philadelphia. They got a bunch of them. But on the Deshaun Jackson point, because you made the point, a lot of people made the point. I heard on the broadcast last night they were making the point. Deshaun Jackson is being treated like he is DeAndre Hopkins with Deshaun Watson, meaning a player that the quarterback has had his whole career, has come to rely on. Carson Wentz played one game ever with Deshaun Jackson. Like the idea that all of a sudden the Eagles' offense cannot function without a guy who's been there for 4 quarters is crazy to me, but it appears to be true. But the other big issue with Philadelphia, Warren Sharp had this said, I couldn't believe it. No team in the last 30 years has allowed more 20-point first halves through 7 games than Philadelphia. 5 of their 7 games, the opposition has scored at least 20 points. The only good defensive first half they've had came against Luke Falk. So when Doug Peterson talked about our offense needs to get going early, that defense needs to get going early, and it's been non-existent.
Yeah, let me tell you what D-Jack does give you. Because if the corner wants to play bump, he got an instant big shot on the outside. He showed us that week number 1, and he's been better than anyone in the 100-year history as far as touchdowns of 60 yards or more. So we're not giving him credit for playing with Carson Wentz. We're giving him credit for the ball player that he is. Also, if I don't play press man coverage, I play cover 2. Well, the safety to that side is off, so now I can run the ball, Greg, with no safety support. So now, if the offensive line is struggling, there's one less guy in the box. And if he is the point guard setting it up, it helps Ertz be better. It helps Jeffries be better. Nelson Aguilar is not a number 1 or a number 2, but it helps him be a special number 3. So let's not act as if he's just a normal receiver. Having him out the lineup affects how everyone else is going to go about doing their business.
Let's talk Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I'd like to say I'm still on the rise.
Dislocated kneecap on Thursday Night Football sent shockwaves throughout the NFL. But some good news for the Kansas City faithful, one of whom resides right next to me for 3 hours every morning. MRI results revealed what is being reported as a best-case scenario for the reigning MVP. And Mahomes says he's feeling good, and he's hoping to return ahead of his 3-week timetable. Nick, how cautious should the Chiefs be with Mahomes' recovery?
Incredibly cautious. And before I say why, I just want to give credit to people we almost never talk about. That Chiefs medical staff for getting to him the way they did, relocating it on the field, him not moving, because that is what they say prevented potential ligament damage.
Yeah, immediately been able to put the kneecap back in the socket. There is a procedure that they do. You could see Patty, it's excruciating initially, but then you do get some relief, as you can see once he stood up and once he began to walk.
I was at Texans training camp, J.J. Watt year 2, when he dislocated his elbow on the field. And the training staff there did the exact same thing for the elbow they did to Patrick Mahomes' kneecap, relocated it and reduced it is what it's called medically, I guess. And it prevented any ligament damage. He didn't miss any games, went on to wear a brace and had won his first Defensive Player of the Year. So this could have been way, way worse. But the Chiefs should not take that gift and be foolish with it. They have 4 games and then a bye. Patrick Mahomes should not see the field before the bye week. If you rush him back, so what?
What are the 4 games?
Home for Green Bay, brutal. Home for Minnesota, real tough, because I feel like Dalvin Cook's going to have 235 yards rushing. At Tennessee, winnable. At the Chargers, not even at the Chargers, Mexico City for the Chargers, and then a bye week. So the Chiefs, the Raiders lost yesterday. The Texans lost yesterday. The Chiefs had a good day yesterday as far as standings watching, aside from Baltimore getting that win in Seattle. This guy is the franchise. He is the reason Chiefs fans such as myself have real hope, legitimate hope for the first time since Joe Montana was there. You cannot rush him back at hopes of improving your seeding. Now, obviously, you don't shelve him for the year. You don't do something like that. You don't have to anymore. But if the timetable's 3 weeks, if you have a bye in 4.5 weeks, I would hold him out until the bye, unless doctors come and say there's absolutely no chance of re-injury, which I don't think they would say.
Oh, that's great, Nick. And the fans and everything are great, and your fandom is even great. But every player I know gets rushed back on the field. And if it's not only by the medical staff, even if they're trying to be precautionary, you are dealing with one of the best athletes, one of the most driven, one of the most focused, and they're getting medical attention around the clock. So if this is a normal 3 to 6 week injury, an elite athlete feels like, hey, I'm going to be one of the faster ones that turns around, and he's going to feel more comfortable sooner than people think. So it's nice. It's nice to have that plan. We're going to be conservative. Saquon Barkley, we talked about high ankle sprain a couple weeks ago. He was thinking about coming back for the Patriots game. I was like, I wouldn't come back for the Patriots game. We saw him yesterday against the Cardinals still get nicked up on that ankle. So it's just a matter of the athlete and the training staff coming to some type of an agreement that, yes, I know I can't do any further damage. Once they tell him that, Patty Mahomes is going to try to get out there. To me, what I'm more concerned about is it's on his back plant leg compared to his driving leg. If it wasn't his back plant leg, I'm worried about his fundamentals, because is he going to drop back and plant off that leg and drive into it and throw the ball down the field?
I feel like we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that he's not playing this week against Green Bay or next week against Minnesota. So then you've got at Tennessee, the Mexico game against the Chargers, and then a bye week. The reason I would be extra cautious is because he is not only dealing with a dislocated kneecap in one leg, he's still dealing with that ankle injury in the other leg that probably was going to need, if he was ever going to get it fully healthy, around a month off. That now, you didn't think he was ever going to get it all year, but if you have the ability after the bye, by holding him out for one extra game, he gets 2 extra weeks because of where the bye falls, to get him back fully healthy, both legs, ankle and knee, I think that's something you have to take into consideration, franchise quarterback or not, just because whether he's 24-year-old MVP or not, because of the Chiefs still can win the Super Bowl. They can only win the Super Bowl with a 100% Patrick Mahomes. So I think it's all about how do we get to a 100% Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be 100% all year, though, Nick. He dislocated his kneecap. An extra week is not going to make. He's going to have to play with some pain. He's going to have to play with a knee brace. He's going to have to play with some discomfort. This is not an injury that you're like, okay, you're getting ready to be pain-free and scot-free. No, he's not going to be healthy until the offseason. Now, his foot might start to feel a little bit better, but that kneecap, like we cannot expect him to feel 100% till the offseason.
Whenever he does come back, how does Andy Reid approach what he allows Patty Mahomes to do? If he's given the green light and the all clear to come back, and we know that the dislocated kneecap is not torn ligaments or whatnot, is he still going to be allowed to run around if he wants to? Or do you want to see Andy Reid be a little more cautious with him?
Well, when you come back as an injured player, you develop a pact. Not only I talked about with the training staff, you develop a pact with the coaching staff. I don't expect the full offense, no, when he comes back. No, you have to call a game and understand to be smart. Well, maybe they might take the quarterback sneak out, too, while he's hurt this time. But, yes, as far as getting him on the run, you're going to do that. You're going to throw a lot more short passes, depending on the wide receivers, to get yards after the catch. Maybe Andy Reid, in his 30 years of coaching, maybe he'll come up with a freaking running game. That would help Jenna. But at the end of the day, people develop habits. Andy Reid develops habits. He's not going to run the ball 40 times, but he's got to be able to protect Patty Mahomes, and he's got to understand, I got to get the ball out of Patty Mahomes' hand to be able to protect him from himself.
I think getting the ball out quick would be, whenever he comes back, something they do much more of. Something, by the way, it looked like they were trying to do much more of against Denver because of his ankle, and he was on a short week. Should be noted, when we see Patrick Mahomes running around, those are almost never designed runs. Those are plays where Patrick Mahomes is running to escape a rush, running to get a better angle on a throw.
No, but Andy Reid calls a lot of 5- and 7-step drops that the quarterback is back there holding the ball, waiting for stuff to develop. That's Andy Reid.
And it's been even more so Andy Reid since Mahomes been in the lineup, because he has the arm, and you want to see if that track team they have at wide receiver can get downfield. So they absolutely, whenever he comes back, will be more conservative in that regard. I would be surprised if you see him before the bye. I would be shocked if you see him before that Charger game. I think you can cross him out for the next 3 weeks, Green Bay, Minnesota, and Tennessee.
I think it was up to him. He'd play yesterday.
Oh, well, yeah, they didn't have a game, but otherwise, agreed.
Coming up, I meant...
I knew what you meant, Jenna.
He'd play before he was even...
I knew what you meant.
Moving on to the Saints. They played Chicago, and if you thought the season was over for New Orleans when Drew Brees went down, you were sadly mistaken. Teddy Bridgewater having to do it without Alvin Kamara in this one, but he did it and did not disappoint. 281 yards and a pair of touchdowns. Saints win 36-25. They improved to 6-1. Teddy Bridgewater is now 5-0 since taking over for Drew Brees. Listen, everybody knows what Drew Brees brings to the table, but there's got to be a little bit of, okay, everything's going great. We haven't even lost a game. Teddy Bridgewater's in there. Maybe we don't want to rock the boat until we have to rock the boat. But see, how impressed have you been with Teddy Bridgewater?
It's been great for him. It's been great for his career. We wondered how effective he was. Teddy Bridgewater is one of those kind of people, too, that if you've been covering the game, you're cheering for him because he's a great guy, has a horrific story, horrific knee injury there in Minnesota that altered his career. But Sean Payton traded for him for a reason. We thought that him and Jacoby Brissett were the best backups that we had in the NFL, and they are showing. Not only is your backup important, but yes, Nick and I, we were correct about that one right there. Both of them playing outstanding. But let's not get this twisted. Drew Brees is amazing. And Sean Payton, even though he's starting to open up the playbook the last couple games, they've won these 5 games, 3 of them on the road. You got to credit their special teams, credit their defense, and their team, because this is a team that's tested the last couple years. They've had heartbreaks. Minneapolis Miracle, they lose to the Vikings. Next year, the call against the Rams. Rams go on to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, but this team is well tested. And in this stretch of 5 games where they went on the road and won 3 times, it's the most impressive stretch we've seen of any team this year. And you got to give Sean Payton credit, because the first couple games, very, very conservative. Last 3, he's opened up that playbook a little bit more for Teddy.
Yeah, they've won 2 of these games scoring less than 14 points, which is 2 wins this year scoring less than 14 points. They had 1 win scoring less than 14 points in the entire Drew Brees era prior to this season. Sean Payton's your coach of the year in the NFL, and I don't really care what happens the rest of the season. If you can lose Drew Brees, and Teddy, I do believe, is the best backup, and I think he's going to be a starter next year. Hell, he might be a starter for the team they were playing last night next year. But what they have done, and by the way, also Mickey Loomis and the building of that roster.
Yes.
Players 1 through 53, seeing how deep this team is, how many different ways they can beat you. And if you didn't watch this football game, you need to understand something. This game was 36-10. With 3 minutes left. And 7 of the 10 came on a Bears kick return touchdown. The Saints had a safety. The Saints were forcing turnovers. The Saints were spectacular in every phase of the game yesterday. And then the Bears had 2 late touchdowns that don't really matter to make the score look
very deceiving.
I mean, they won this game by 25 points, it felt like, and that's what it was trending towards. And if you're the Saints right now, and see, you've got it in front of you, but if you look at the schedule, you're like, okay, we've gotten through this, right? Where we thought you needed to go 3-3. They've got Arizona, and Arizona's won 3 in a row. Then they have a bye. Then Atlanta, then Tampa, a home game for Carolina, then Atlanta again before they face a really tough San Francisco team that's in New Orleans, by the way. A game that, by the way, maybe that's for the 1 seed. Who knows?
Yes.
I do know this, that if you'd have told anyone in football Drew Brees is going to be out 6 weeks, if you could take it right now, guarantee it, would they take 3-3?
They would take 3-3.
They would have taken it sight unseen, say, we're going to stay alive. And we talked about Patrick Mahomes earlier, see? The Chiefs do not have a roster 1 through 53 that can sustain this injury to their quarterback. No. And so what they're doing, no Alvin Kamara. Yeah. And you do this to the Chicago defense.
Oh, yeah, the backup rushes for 119.
Everyone's going to talk about Trubisky and how bad he is. That's fine. But Trubisky don't play defense for the Bears. And what the Saints did there to that defense was remarkable. I thought if they won, it was going to be 9-7. Instead, they win 36-25, really going away.
I really like this Teddy Bridgewater story.
So he's going to be a starting quarterback in the league next year.
Patrick Mahomes is hopeful he'll be back in less than 3 weeks from his dislocated kneecap. But with Mahomes out, Kansas City will rely on their other offensive stars like 2-time All-Pro Travis Kelce, who leads all tight ends with 541 receiving yards this season, kind enough to get up and join us this morning. Travis, thanks so much for hanging with us today.
It's good to see you guys, man. Always good.
All right, I want to start by asking you about Mahomes, as we just talked about. Now that we know the injury isn't as bad as it could have been, take us back to the moment. You just, how scary was it? What was your mentality? You were on the field. You saw him. We saw his reaction. It really looked scary to us. Just kind of take us back through it.
I mean, everyone knows it was a QB sneak on either the 3rd or 4th down, and we were trying to get everyone off the pile, and we saw the pack couldn't move, so everyone's trying to figure out what's wrong with him, because he really isn't in a panic. He's kind of just laying there and knows that he can't move. And once you look at his knee, he started pointing at his knee. And once you look at his knee, it was like, that doesn't look like a knee. I don't know what that is right there, but the kneecap was in a different place, and it was just it wasn't a good sight to see. Didn't know whether he was going to be back in the game or obviously, you never know how long he's going to be out. So it's just it's good to hear that it's not as bad as everyone originally thought it is, and that he's getting healthier every day.
Travis, there's been a number of teams that have a great deal of success with a backup quarterback. We know you guys change your mentality when Matt Moore comes into the lineup in last week's game. Now moving forward, as a veteran tight end, who I believe is the best tight end in the NFL, what adjustments are you going to make sure that Matt Moore is comfortable and this offense still runs smoothly until you get Patrick Mahomes back?
The biggest thing is just try not to do too much. You know, who we are as an offense is always going to be good enough. We got players in this locker room that, you know, it matters to them. So we're going to go out there and we're going to compete every single day, every single play. But trying not to do too much and just being ourselves, I think that'll be just fine because Matty Moore can come in and dice it up.
Travis, I was really impressed by your guys' ability as a team to, moments after Patrick Mahomes went out, when it looked like he was going to have to be carted out and then he walked off the field, to immediately turn the page. It's something Cris talks about all the time, that no matter who the player is, you have to have the ability to do it. I think you guys responded better than Chiefs fans responded, who were terrified sitting at home watching. You guys really rallied. Defense played its best game of the year once Patrick Mahomes went out. How important, now that you especially know Mahomes' timeline, was that win, and was for the defense the confidence that, oh, we do have this type of game in us, even if we haven't shown it the first 6 weeks of the year?
Oh, yeah. It was a huge confidence boost for our defense to be able to stuff Denver like that. I mean, it was they played lights out all game long. It was the first drive that is the only time they scored, I believe. And even then, they ended the drive by stopping a 2-point conversion. So everything was building up for them all game, and to see them get that many sacks, play that well together, and it, honestly, it made it that much easier for the offense to be able to rally together, knowing that Pat was down.
Obviously, Patrick Mahomes to Tyreek Hill was something we were all looking forward to. We didn't get that much time to see that. But does Hill being back in the lineup bring a different element to this offense, regardless of who the quarterback is?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it matters for sure. Don't get me wrong, but Tyreek Hill being on the field changes everything from a defensive perspective. I think him being the fastest guy in the league, he automatically puts a cap on the defense. You have to play 20 to 25 yards off the ball as a safety, as the deep third defender. And it's just with him being on the field, it makes everyone else kind of open up. And that's what you get with playing with one of the best wide receivers in the National Football League and being Tyreek Hill.
Travis, I remember talking to you after you got drafted by Kansas City, giving you some background on Andy Reid, telling you what a special place it was with their fans, and also how Andy was going to help you out. Also on that staff, you guys have as an OC, Eric Bieniemy. Eric is a guy I'm very, very familiar with. How important has your overall development been with Andy Reid, an offensive mind, but also you and Eric Bieniemy? You got into a little something on the sidelines. I know you squashed it, but you talked about how important this coaching staff is in getting the best out of Travis Kelce. Can you elaborate on that for us?
I mean, Coach Reid being the unbelievable coach he is, I mean, he's done it year in, year out for countless amount of years. I've been so thankful just to be under his offense, let alone be able to pick his brain about the tight end position, which he's coached in the past. But even on top of that, Coach Eric Bieniemy, he's one of the best OCs in the game right now, and he's been one of my favorite coaches since I've been here. He knows I love him, and we're both very competitive. So what you saw on the sideline was just two competitive minds going after it, and him holding me accountable throughout the game. And I love him for it. It got me going, and sure enough, we ended up definitely squashing that, but moving on forward to better things to find a way to get a win last week.
You had, I thought, a really interesting, if not just a little tongue-in-cheek quote before the season, I think at a fan event, where you said, listen, if you think we're going to pass, we're going to pass. And if you think we're going to run, we're probably going to pass it anyway. And that is who you guys were through the first 6 weeks of the season. Even at times it felt maybe to the team's detriment, being you've got Tyreek, all these weapons, Patrick Mahomes, why would you not pass? But it kept the defense on the field a ton, and you guys had the 2-game losing streak. With Patrick now out, how confident are you in the running back core, and do you think the Chiefs will get to maybe a little bit more of a balanced offense that could pay dividends once Patrick comes back?
I mean, in terms of league-wide, I really do believe we have the best skilled players in the league. And that counts in the running back room too. I mean, LaShawn and Damian, both of those guys, they're a two-headed monster back there when we get the ball in their hands. And I don't think anything really switches up that much. I honestly believe Matty Moore can come in and fill the needs that we need back there at quarterback and get dubs just by the offense that we already have set.
Travis, put some Kansas City Chiefs fans at ease a little bit. Obviously, some people thought the end of the season was upon us with Patrick Mahomes going out. We saw what happened in New Orleans where Drew Brees went down, and they've managed to sort of keep the ship afloat. You guys have a great offense. You're playing very well, and then this happens. What do you say to your fans? What do you do over the course of the next couple weeks to make sure you're in a good position when Mahomes does return to the team?
Just know we have a lot of people in this locker room that care. And that's the biggest thing is when you get a lot of guys that where it means something to them and you're playing for something, for somebody else, a band of brothers grouped together, that's something difficult to stop. That's hard to stop. So I think everybody in this locker room, we just come together just a little bit more, circle the wagons just a little bit more and come together and even finish the season strong. Bearing injury or not, you're going to have to find a way to win. And that's what the Kansas City Chiefs are about. We got Andy Reid back there, so we know we got a chance as long as we got Big Red.
Travis, there's a few pairs of brothers in the NFL that I feel like we talk about a lot. Everybody knows Nicky and Joey are brothers, play same position, similar style. I'm not sure how many people recognize, Travis and Jason Kelce are brothers. You guys are very different people. You guys have different personalities. You guys both seem to love to have fun, but in different ways. Give me a Jason Kelce growing up story. Growing up in the same house as him. Not him in the Mummers costume at the parade, but something your brother is going to text you after and say, I can't believe you told that story on television. Give us a good Jason Kelce, Philadelphia Eagles center story.
Oh man, you just put me on the spot. Golly, everyone sees him as this big, tough guy, center in the National Football League, has to move 300-pound men as his job. And the one story in my mind that I can think of is we're big hockey players growing up, so we would play roller hockey in the driveway. And I remember he went out to the street to turn around to come back as I was playing goalie, and sure enough, he wiped out. I'm talking about right out from under his legs. His blades slipped out from under him. He flat on his back, and he gets up, running in, holding his tail like he had just got spanked. Oh my goodness, it was the funniest thing ever. I'd never seen such a big kid cry for his mother like that.
That's awesome.
So getting ready for next week's game, I know you've probably taken a little bit of a film study with Green Bay. They do have a defense now. We know Aaron Rodgers. You got to score points, keep him on the sideline. But looking at Green Bay, what are some of the problems they present for this Kansas City offense?
Man, honestly, I haven't really peeked at them that much other than the night game they had the other week. They got Aaron Rodgers. It's the Green Bay Packers, man. You're in for a fight. A lot of tradition going even in between these two teams. I mean, a lot of tradition. And I think the more I look at the film, the more I'll realize, what we got to really do to attack and find a way to win.
All right, Travis, before you go, tell us about your partnership with Old Spice.
Old Spice. I'm here on behalf of Old Spice, the official antiperspirant of the NFL. And, they're always irrationally finding a way to tackle odor and sweat. It's in every single locker room. And it being the official antiperspirant of the NFL, even Montez Sweat of the Redskins is not safe. With the new 48-hour sweat and odor protection and the antiperspirant, the Sweat Defense Dry Spray. Everyone, go check it out.
I hope they're paying you well, because that was fantastic.
Great. Hey, hold on, Travis, real quick before you go. You're having another great year, but only one touchdown. You should have two, but your guy, my guy, Patrick Mahomes, went all fancy week one, went no look and missed you on it. He tweeted he was going to buy you lunch or buy you something. Did he actually ever come through on that and pay off that debt?
You know what? He's bought a few meals over the years. So
that's a no. That's a no. He
still
owes you.
Some touchdowns where I had no business scoring. So trust me, it goes both ways. I ain't mad at it, and we got the win. So.
Travis, thank you so much for joining us today. Oh, all the best of luck for the rest of the season. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Travis.
Well, it's good seeing you guys. Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.